This episode of Lawyers Tell All is brought to you by Law Firm Conversions. If your law firm's phone is ringing, that only means your marketing is successful. It's what happens when the phone is answered that will drive your success or failure. Visit www.intakeacademy.com and claim your free copy of Chris Mullen's groundbreaking book for lawyers and law firms that gets every call converting to become a profitable client, showing you the steps you need to take to ensure the right person is answering the phone and answering it correctly. Welcome to the Lawyers Tell All podcast, where Chris Mullins, the preeminent sales and communications consultant in the legal industry, shows you how it looks through lawyers' eyes. Here, innovators in the trenches provide powerful insights that help you connect with new clients, handle the sometimes harsh realities of the legal profession, and embrace the mindsets needed to succeed. Be sure to visit our website at www.lawyerstellall.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, lean in, tune in, and let's take a deep dive.
Hello, everyone. It's Chris Mullins, the phone sales doctor with Intake Academy and Lawyers Tell All. And today I'm going to be interviewing James Grant. It's going to be a wonderful interview. Sit back, relax, and enjoy it. And I'm going to let James interview me as well, but I'm also going to let him go ahead and just tell a little bit about himself. Okay, here we go. Go ahead, James.
Hey, Chris, it's great to be here. Great to be on. I'm really excited about our podcast this morning. And we're just going to have some fun, like you said, because that's the way people interact. That's the way people do business. You do business with people that you know, like, and trust. And you can't build trust unless you establish that credibility and at least, confidence in who you're interacting with and what they're going to be able to do for you and with you. So a little bit about me. I am a personal injury attorney, but I'm not your typical personal injury attorney. I help other personal injury lawyers make more money faster with less stress through outsourced litigation. I am the outsourced litigation department for personal injury law firms across the state of Georgia. And pretty soon we're hoping to move into a couple other states.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. Before we go there, I just want to finish up on a little bit of something that we were chit-chatting about right before we went live. So I saw you on TikTok. I saw you lifting up the car, and you were just telling me that you had decided you want to get back in shape. Is that like, did you want to lose weight or just build muscle or what?
I've always kind of been active, but when you have kids, I've got two young kids. I've got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I mean, it's just crazy town. But like now that they're, starting to be a little bit more self-sufficient, they can help each other, they can help out around the house. I've got a little bit more time back. And I was like, all right, I told my wife, I've got to get back like to working out because that's something I've always wanted to do and something I've always done, but I just never really had the time, especially those first couple of years when the kids were young. So I decided, I was like, if I'm going to get back in this, I don't just want to like stick my toe in. I don't want to just want to dabble. I want to actually be committed. And if you don't have a goal, if you don't have something you're striving for, you're just kind of like flailing about. Same thing with business as well. Mm-hmm. So I decided in October of 2021, I was like, I'm going to give myself a year and I want to compete in a strongman competition. Mm-hmm. Kind of like the stuff you see on World's Strongest Man, but I am nowhere near that strong. And I put in the work, I put in the effort, I ate a lot, gained a bunch of weight, which is what I wanted to do. And I was able to compete in my first strongman competition in October of last year with a lot of guys that were a whole lot younger than me. And it was great. It was much fun. I got 7th out of 11th, and I've got my next strongman in March of this year in Georgia as well. So, we're looking to bigger and better things this year.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this. How has taking this direction with your health and your physical health and getting back into it and goals, how has that helped you in your career?
I would say it's a symbiotic relationship both ways. And what I mean by that is, number one, I have to build a business that allows me the time and opportunity to dedicate my time to working out, because you have to be able to take care of yourself, and you can't just sleep 3 hours a night and then do all this other stuff, or at least that's not a long-term plan. So you have to be able to have a business and have something working for you so that you can dedicate the time to this, because this is not, I'm not working out 30 minutes here and there sporadically. Like there's a lot of time and other things and, therapies and treatments and things I'm doing outside that I have to have a business that is sustainable with and without me at certain times in order to get me to the point where I can achieve my health goals. Mm-hmm. Then on the flip side, once I'm able to, work out and be healthy and be conscious about, what I'm putting in my body and what workouts I'm doing and what other treatments I'm, taking on, and then am I sleeping? Sleep is one of the biggest things out there. And once I'm doing all that, then it goes back to the other way. So with business, then I'm more fresh. I'm focused on what I'm doing, and I don't have, the high blood pressure. I don't have the high cholesterol. I don't have all those things that are, tearing people down. I'm making myself better in my business, and my business is making me better on my health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. That's great. That's really great. Okay, so outsourced litigation. Talk about that a little bit.
So you can probably take a rock, anybody, anywhere in America, and throw it, and you're going to hit 75 other personal injury law firms. I mean, everybody does personal injury, or somebody that does personal injury, or at least they claim to do it. So this is not something where it's hard to find a personal injury attorney in your area. And most personal injury attorneys are really focused on the pre-litigation side of things. There's really two routes to a personal injury case. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to do your marketing, you're going to do your sales, you're going to sign up the client, you're going to get them into treatment, you're going to get all the records and bills and evidence and everything, build up the case, and send off a demand letter. And hopefully within the first 30 to 60 days, you're able to settle that case. That's what we call a pre-litigation settlement. Not every case settles there, but a lot of cases do. And those cases that don't move into the litigation phase. And those are the two main, compartments where we park a lot of our personal injury cases. When we're looking at it on the first phase of pre-litigation, the margins are so much higher. For personal injury law firms, they want those cases, because even if your cost of acquisition is, let's say, $1,800, but you sign up $1 million case and you take a $333,033 attorney fee, you did pretty well on that. Like that's a pretty good deal. The margins on that are absolutely incredible. When you then move into the next phase of litigation, there's a lot more that goes into that process. You've got to have attorneys that are highly skilled in litigation. You've got to have staff. You've got to have processes. You've got to have procedures. You've got to have all the overhead and the oversight, in addition to the money to fund the cases. And the one thing that I have found through my career as an attorney is you have to be good. You have to specialize at just one or two things, and that's really it. If you dabble in everything, you're an expert in nothing. So when it comes to the personal injury side of things, the staff that you use for pre-lit is not the staff that you can use for litigation. It's kind of like, baseball and football. They're not the same. You don't take a baseball team and go play football. You don't take a business law attorney and give him a constitutional law argument. It's effectively the same thing. So a lot of firms are running them with the same staff, with the same process, with the same team. And those two things conflict with each other. So we found is if you're going to make more money over here in pre-lit and you can go sign up more cases and make more money there, if I can help you and take off that overhead, take off those man hours, not have to have you sit in a chair for a 4 or 5 hour deposition, and then I just send you mailbox money on your cases and help your clients get back to where they should have been because the insurance company was just jerking them around the whole time. It just makes it easier, and it's really symbiotic. And then one thing even further is in every business, you've got to have a unique value proposition. Our unique value proposition is if I'm going to help you and I'm going to say, I want to help your law firm grow and I want to handle your litigation, then that's where I need to stay. I don't need to come dabble over here in pre-lit. I don't need to start doing Google ads and driving up your cost of acquisition, because if I'm competing with you, I'm not helping you. Those two things don't go together. So in addition to us helping other attorneys, we stay out of their field as well, because they're good at pre-lit, we're good at lit. We're going to work together and build each other up together.
Just talk a little bit more about the details of what's involved with the lit.
So when you're dealing with a personal injury case, and this is, I mean, the laws change a little bit from state to state, but what we're looking at is when you're involved in a car accident, for instance, you know, the insurance company is the one that's generally running the show. And most people think that, at least when it comes to the pre-litigation side, you know, trying to settle the case within that first, 30 to 60 days after the client's done with treatment. Well, when we need to go to litigation because, let's say, the insurance company denies liability or gives a really lowball offer, well, the next step is filing a lawsuit. And the way a lawsuit works is the person that was wronged has to sue the person that did something wrong. So in the instance where I rear-end you, well, you have to sue me because I am the one that did something wrong. I was the one that rear-ended you. I was the one that wasn't paying attention. Now, my insurance company is kind of like the puppet master that's in the background. They're the one that's pulling all the strings. They're the one that's going to hire an attorney to represent me. They're the one that's actually controlling everything about the case. They're going to pay for the attorneys. They're going to pay for the litigation costs. They're going to pay for the settlement if there's a settlement that's negotiated during the litigation process, or even if we go to trial and you and your attorney get a verdict against me, the person, my insurance company is still going to pay, but you have to sue the person that did something wrong. So that's why, there's a lot of confusion about that as well, as we can't sue insurance companies because the insurance company wasn't behind the car driving. They didn't cause the accident. It's just the insured, in my example with you and me, I'm the one that did something wrong.
And so everything, the service that you provide, basically the litigation team, what's everything that you pretty much do? Because I think that some people will be listening and watching some firms and they're wondering like, well, how much do you do?
Yeah.
Right.
So one of the things that I pride myself on in my firm is we've been through this many, many years. We started out doing litigation referrals. So we have built a process, and in addition to our coaches, because I'm very much a giant advocate for hiring a business coach. Most attorneys, even it doesn't matter whether you have an MBA or you have business experience, you still need a business coach to help you run a successful business and give you that kind of third-party analysis and help you grow a business that happens to practice law. So with that, we've been able to build processes and procedures and automation and make sure that we hire the right team and retrain the team that we have constantly to make sure that we're reiterating our policies and making sure that our policies and our workflows and checklists and everything is working up to the standards that we want for us and for our clients, to make sure that the case moves as efficiently as possible through the litigation process. So that's something where, when a client or a law firm refers a case to us, we take over the case in conjunction with that law firm. We want to work with that firm so that way the client doesn't feel like, oh, I'm just getting dropped off or I'm getting dumped on another attorney. It's no, we're working together to give you the best result possible. So there's a little bit of sales in that first few initial interactions to make sure.
So hang on one second. Talk about that a little bit of that sales part. Like, what do you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So one thing is there's a lot of people that at least claim to or try to do litigation referral work, and for better or for worse, in that first initial call where they're taking over the case, a lot of times they're going to badmouth the prior firm that was sending to them. They're like, oh, your attorney messed up, or they didn't do this, or, try to make themselves look like the rock star so that the client buys into them. I don't like that because, number one, this is your first interaction with this new client. It is a sales call. It is a sales opportunity because they're not necessarily sold on you. And it's always better to bring positivity to the conversation and the discussion. It's my opinion. So we're going to say, hey, your firm that you were with and my firm are going to work together on your case. It's not that they're dropping you. It's not that they don't have the ability. It's that we together are going to get your case to the finish line to get you the best result possible. And then just explaining to the client where the case came, where we are today, and what the steps and outlook are going forward, just to kind of give them the 50,000-foot flyover view of what litigation looks like and what that process entails. And each case is a little bit different. Each route has its own twists and turns, whether you're talking about a different county or maybe a different judge, different insurance company, different defense attorney. There's a lot of different factors that go into it, but they follow the same process as far as you have to file a lawsuit. Then you have to serve the lawsuit. Then you're going to go through the discovery process. Once you get through that, you're going to go to a deposition, you're going to go to mediation. And then if you don't settle at mediation or any time before that, you're going to go to trial and potentially an appeal, but that very rarely happens. But I mean, it's, explaining that in layman's terms, because most clients haven't gone through this. Litigation is not something that's really super, super common. And just giving that peace of mind as far as what is coming, and that you have a team behind you that's going to be able to help you through that.
Yeah, and that's something that we listen to call recordings a lot, client call recordings, prospective client call recordings, work with intake, but also work with attorneys and coaching them on building relationships and client care and empathy and case managers and negotiations and all of those different places. And one of the big things that I find is that, number one, the part when you've got the team relationship and you want the firm that you work with to be a firm that believes in customer service and relationships and empathy and all of that, because if they don't do that well, then they're not going to pass the baton very well for you. And then you want to make sure that your team does the same exact thing and everybody's like on the same. And right there, some people, they think that's not that big of it's a huge deal. If you don't have that in sync, it's like an uphill battle for you. And then the other thing too is that having scripts, I don't believe in people sounding scripted at all. But I call them scripts because they're scripts, but you can call them a cheat sheet, outline, whatever you want to call them, it doesn't matter. But making sure that everybody has a roadmap to know, like in layman terms, how to explain the next steps, how to teach, how to educate, having those tools in front of you, finely crafted with the right words and the right language, just so you can kind of absorb it and then you can share it when it's appropriate, is really, really important. And those things, a lot of people miss them. They completely miss them and think they're just little details, but they're not.
Oh yeah, I agree 10,000%. We have in our training modules, we have written out word for word scripts, but those are examples.
Right.
We don't encourage anyone to read a script because, I mean, just like you said, everyone knows when they're being read to. Like there is no doubt in the conversation that, oh, this person is reading off a script to me, because it's just hard to hide that. So we start off with the example of, hey, this is a couple of different examples. Here, go listen to a couple calls. And then here's our outline of our, 7 or 8 things that you need to accomplish in the call. I don't necessarily care how you do that once you've gone through the training, but it's like, these are the major milestones that need to be achieved in the call. And then, at the end of the call, one thing we always do is ask the client, number one, do you understand? Have them explain it back to us. So that way we make sure that we're actually speaking the same language. And then also ask them, was this call productive? Do you feel like you understand your case? What more can we do, or what additional information can we provide to make sure that you feel comfortable about where your case is? Because so many times as attorneys, we think that we know it all and that we've given exactly what they need. They heard it from me. They heard it the way they should have understood it. And if they don't understand it, that's on them. Kind of like you said, doesn't matter what I say, it matters what they hear and how they hear it. So you have to confirm that there is an understanding in that meeting of the minds, because people that talk attorney, no one talks attorney. Like that's not a thing. You have to talk like a normal person.
Yeah. And 2 things. One is, I think what you said about at the end, but basically finding out, okay, did everything that I say, did it make sense? Could you just repeat back what I said to make sure that we're on the same page? I think that at the very, very least, if that gets accomplished, then you'll know if you're in the right direction or not. And if your team is held accountable to do that, and they hold themselves accountable to do that, then the rest should be fairly, smooth. That's like the most important part. But the other thing is, what about listening to your call recordings? Do you folks listen to your call recordings just to kind of like inspect and make sure you're okay?
Yeah, I mean, it's a necessary evil. Is that something that anybody wants to do is go into listen to calls? No. Now, is that something that I do? No. We've grown to the point where we're able to hire people to do those things for us.
Yeah,
and that's very important because, number one, as a owner of a law firm, as the owner of a business that just so happens to practice law, you're the visionary. You shouldn't be doing necessarily the administrative level work, but you need to build the team that can do those things to make sure that calls are audited, that clients are followed up with. And, for us, it's the client success coordinator, following up and saying, hey, how is your case going? How is the service that you're receiving? What are your feelings of our law firm? How would you rate us on a scale of 1 to 10? And building those things in to make sure that you have metrics from your clients, because really, it doesn't matter what the staff says. It matters in what the staff says, but in this limited context, it doesn't matter what the staff says about how the client feels. The client has to tell you, because perception is reality. The way the client is perceiving whatever we're doing, it doesn't matter what your staff's intentions were. It doesn't matter what they wanted to say. It just matters how the client perceived what was said. And so that's what we have to work on, is understanding it from the client's perspective, not did I say it the right way that I wanted to say it?
Yeah.
Did I say it the way they understood it and find a benefit that they can understand?
I think what's really important, what you're saying is you're basically teaching everyone, all the different managing partners and firms that are watching and listening, exactly what's really important to you with your litigation team as a business. Therefore, this is what you're going to provide as a service. I think that's really good. Well, let me ask you this question here. This is something that it's how do I say this? It's kind of perplexing to me with all of our experiences with law firms. What do you do when you frequently hear from the team, more times than not, I didn't do it, the client did it. It's not my fault, it's the client's fault. They're just constantly being pushy and aggressive and calling me over and over again. They're not listening. I did this, I did that. Like, if you start getting that kind of response, or if you were to get that kind of response from your team, what is that telling you about your team?
Number one, it tells me I need to go into investigation mode to find out where the truth is. And generally, the truth is going to be in the middle somewhere. But one thing I always like to talk about in the context of this field of personal injury is we kind of have to take a step back and realize, who are we dealing with? We're dealing with an individual that went through a serious trauma, whether it be a car accident, a slip and fall, wrongful death, dealing with family members. I mean, there's a number of different scenarios where this person or a family member could have been impacted in a very serious way. So that was what triggered this. Then they went through some extensive level of treatment. Now the insurance company is stringing them along and not giving them what they're owed. And this case may have been going on for a year, 2 years. We may be in our 3rd or 4th year and just waiting for trial. Who knows? But either way, there's a lot that has happened, and they're frustrated, because I would be too. Like, no one wants to have to go through that. So you have to understand first, they may be what people in the industry may call a difficult client, but are they really a difficult client, or are they just stuck with a really difficult situation? And we needed to help them to overcome whatever the hurdle is that they're dealing with in that moment. That's really, I think, the biggest thing. So it's more about reading through the notes, talking with the case manager or the attorney or whoever's been in contact with, trying to find out what the issue is, and then getting on the phone with the client and being like, hey, this is kind of what we're seeing. What can we do to help? And presenting it from that standpoint of, how can we help? This is what we're seeing, as opposed to, don't you call my staff bad words, or, don't you do this? How dare you? Like, that's not the way you treat people. So it's all about treating others like you would like to be treated. Yeah.
And why is business missed in law firms? Like, you bring the whole business solution to a law firm, but why is it a problem to begin with? I know they don't teach it in law school, but eventually you figure, you're running a business, you think you would know.
I would disagree.
Okay, good.
generally the way it works in law is the best marketer gets the case. Generally, that's the way most clients end up with a particular person, is they're the best marketer. Are they necessarily the best legal mind? Maybe, maybe not, maybe somewhere in the middle. But even further, even if you hire the attorney that is the best legal orator and has the best arguments and the best track record in the courtroom, they may not have the best business model. Mm-hmm. And they may be the best person to try your case, mm-hmm. but if they're not running a business well enough to calendar your statute of limitations and they miss it because they don't run a business, they just have a hobby that's the practice of law, well, you're never going to get to the courtroom to hear them. So there's a lot of things when clients are choosing an attorney where you really need to like dive in and ask them questions about how they run their business, because that's really where your case is going to be made. Mm-hmm. Do they have processes? Do they have procedures? Do they have actual metrics and key performance indicators that they're running their firm? Or is it just kind of this, well, this is the way that dad did it, or this is the way that mom did it, and, we've been this way for 15 years, and, maybe we grow 3% in revenue every year. That's generally how everyone looks at it. They're like, that's some level of success. Oh, you didn't have to shut your doors through COVID. Oh, you really did well as a business owner, where it's like, I mean, I'm not trying to like brag, but like we grew 50% through COVID, and we've continued that type of growth, and we're not a new law firm. So if the law firm that you're going with isn't growing, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60% year after year, you kind of need to sit back and be like, am I in the right place?
Yeah. Tell me this, how did you get involved in the whole litigation outsourcing part of your career?
So when we first started our business, that was kind of something that we had seen in another law firm. My business partner and I, Mark, we were both working in a law firm that kind of did door law, meaning, if you came in the door and you had a case or you had cash, they were going to handle it. And, we learned very quickly that wasn't where we wanted to be. And so we started planning and we started saving and building things so that we could launch our firm. Mm-hmm. And through that firm, they did some of the litigation referral work in addition to 500 other different types of law. So we had exposure to it. And when you first start a business, the first thing is really, you've got to get cash in the door. Mm-hmm. You are running a business to benefit your family, benefit yourself, and benefit others. But if you don't pay your bills, you've got a problem. So when we first started, we were doing kind of almost the door law approach. We did criminal defense, we did family law, we did personal injury, because it's
What's your baker candlestick maker?
Yeah. I mean, and then through that, it was just, number one, we've got to whittle down. We've got to, find our specialty. Yeah. We're both good at personal injury. We enjoyed it. There is a monetary benefit to working personal injury cases. So we're looking at all these things. We're like, this is kind of where we want to be. And that's where we focused on personal injury. And we've just always had that litigation referral part of our business, but only really probably within the past year have we decided, what, we're all in on litigation referral work and outsource litigation, because you have to be different. You have to have, kind of like I talked about earlier, that unique value proposition. If you look like everybody, if you act like everybody, you're going to get mediocre results because you're being mediocre with your differentiation standpoint, which is effectively none.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And really, it's like you said, it's only been about a year.
Since we've gone all in. Now, we've been in business since 2015. Mm-hmm. But yes. But
for the litigation outsourcing part, is that what you mean?
Yes, it's for the exclusivity of that. Yes.
And what's the website that people can go to? I'm sorry. What's the website people can go to to learn about that?
It's our toll-free number, which is 833-4-THE-WIN, and that's our URL. So it's 833-4-THEWIN.com. Okay.
And who's your ideal client?
So there's a couple different ways this can go, but our avatar that we really go after as far as our client is other law firms. And we're not necessarily talking about individuals, because we're more a B2B business to business. We're not business to consumer or business to client. So we're looking for other personal injury law firms in the Georgia area. Generally, these are law firms that are around, the probably $750,000 a year up to $3 million a year in gross revenue. They've probably got 1 or 2 attorneys and a couple different staff. And, they're trying to do both, but they're a really good marketer. They're really good at sales. They're really good at signing up clients, but they're having to sit in depositions. They're having to go to hearings. They're having to do trials. They're having to do all these things that are, sucking a lot of their time and resources, where if we could hand all those resources back to them, their pre-lit department's going to grow even more and going to take off. Okay, that's very interesting, because your ideal is exactly what we do. It's exactly the people that we work with. So that's really good. So any last bits of advice that you would like to give the law firms out there? Yeah, I mean, I talk about this on a couple of different podcasts that I've been on lately, and it's just hire a business coach. If you are an entrepreneur that's practicing law, you need a business coach. You need somebody to help you see the forest for the trees and to make a strategic plan with a vision towards the future. Most law firm entrepreneurs are down in the weeds. They're stuck in, this motion is due tomorrow. I've got this motion next month. I've got this big doctor deposition coming up, and they're focused on the case, where they really need to be focused on building the law firm to get them in the future. I'm a firm believer in masterminds, and for the last 30 years, I've been in all kinds of masterminds, not just for law, but just business in general. I would like to see more masterminds for law firms, because there's just a couple. Yeah. There's not really that many. And I think that would be really great. But for everybody that's watching and listening, if there's like anything that you could do differently right now, go get a business coach, join a mastermind. It is like, why reinvent the wheel? Why do it? You'll be with like-minded people that like and trust, and you'll help each other and you'll support each other. I mean, just do it. That's like number one. Go do it. Okay. Any last words? Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you, talk with your listeners. And if I can be of any assistance to anyone, you know how to get a hold of me, 833-4-THE-WIN. Perfect. Now, let me just ask you this. So about your weightlifting, I've been thinking about doing that. So did you get a coach for that? Yes and no. One of my really good friends, he almost went pro, but he tore a bicep and it set him back. And he has been very influential with me. He didn't compete in strongman, but he competed in the Highland Games. And I have used him as a very strong resource. So it definitely helps to have those people that are close to you that can help you achieve those goals, because generally you can't do it on your own. Yeah, okay. I'm glad you didn't say that you learned by YouTube. Maybe you did, but you didn't say it. I'm glad you didn't do that. Well, everybody, make sure you look at TikTok there and see what James is doing. And upward and onward. So long, everyone. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Lawyers Tell All, where Chris Mullins takes you on a journey with lawyers in the trenches who show you the realities of what it takes to succeed in this chaotic, crowded, ever-changing profession. Remember to visit our website at www.lawyerstellall.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on Lawyers Tell All.